And we are live here on the Steelers Depot Monday Q&A live stream. As always, Dave, Brian, and I here for the next hour to answer any and all of your Steelers questions. And let me just pull up the live stream on my end until it finally decides to work. And I can see the chat and answer the questions. Though there's already a ton sitting there, a couple of super chats that we will address right away, Dave. But busier Monday than I anticipated, as a lot of news has come in, a lot of Keith Butler spilling all the tea on a Monday afternoon.
Man, I didn't know this. That's the beauty about what we do. You wake up, you never know what direction the day's going to go in. And you had T.J. White on the Pat McAfee show for about, I don't know, what, about 18, 19, 20 minutes, right around in there. And then Keith
Hmm.
Butler on 93 7, the fan, just pouring gasoline all over the place and flicking a cigarette out there into the middle of it there. I think he caught himself on fire a little bit too while he was doing that
Hmm.
interview. But never a dull moment. I don't know that. I mean, we did learn a little bit new, I think, out of Butler today, and some confirmation on some other things. And he talked about Stephon Tuitt a little bit as well too, and talked about the injuries on the defensive line and how that, like it or not, that impacted things on the defensive side of football. But yeah, let's get this thing rolling. Happy Monday,
Yeah,
everybody.
happy Monday. Let us know if the audio sounds good. If you can hear Dave and I, you should be able to. If there's any sort of issues, just let me know. And so, yeah, we'll address some of the things Butler said. But I have a pair of super chats that I want to start with. And again, Dave will answer, and I will answer as many questions as possible from 7 to 8 p.m. If you want your question to go to the front of the line and be guaranteed to be asked and answered, send in a super chat, as Tim Chase has done, a $5 super chat. Good to hear from you, Tim. He says, did this weekend's quarterback play affect your assessment of this 2022 draft class? I don't know if that's specific to quarterbacks or not. I kind of assume and implying that it is. To me, short answer is no, but it just kind of re-clarified, not that it was breaking news, but just re-clarified how important and how valuable it is to have one of those top level throwers, a Burrow, a Mahomes, Josh Allen, and the value those guys bring you.
Look, I mean, we've been talking all season, and Mike Tomlin's been talking about quarterback mobility and those kind of things. There, I think the only thing that kind of you know uh, maybe comes back into your mind is the fact that the old high pedigree type player there. If you look at the quarterbacks, I mean, even ahead of this weekend, the quarterbacks that were left remaining outside of Brady, who's obviously the ultimate outlier and a lucky son of a what too. But uh, look at the pedigree of these quarterbacks in this draft class. Number ones and Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously number two there. Tannehill, obviously out of it, was a number one. So yeah, I mean, look, it probably adds up, right? You franchise quarterback, you're normally going to get those guys earlier in the draft,
Right.
and about the whole mobility thing and the look. I mean, not only did you have mobility, you had quarterbacks' ability to extend the play on top of that, and obviously that plays into the mobility factor there. And what about the arm strength? Those Mahomes and Allen, they were slinging it in that game as well too. And even look at Matthew Stafford. Always had a pretty good arm, and a guy that I've considered one of the best cover two hole shot guys in the NFL. And he was putting the football down the field as well too. So you got to have a quarterback that's mobile, can extend the play, can throw the football down the field, and one also that's not afraid to attack the middle of the field more than 15 yards down the field. So nothing new. It's just, as Alex said, kind of confirmation at this time of year of everything that we've kind of been thinking.
Yeah, and of course, it wouldn't change any individual quarterback evaluation. I think the question is, do you value maybe traits differently in terms of what you're looking for? But no, I don't think it's changed things too much for either of us, Tim. Mutated Genome, $2 super chat. Should Mike Tomlin be forced to give up defensive play calling? Again, Keith Butler speaking today and over the weekend about how he didn't really have play calling duties on game day during his tenure as DC, and even revealed that Tomlin basically started that process of taking away some of that role from Dick LeBeau in his final years, which is the first time that I'm aware of that being, public or known information. So to answer the question, it won't be a popular one. I'm going to say no to, should Tomlin be forced to give that stuff up? It's not uncommon for a head coach of his side of the football to call plays. I mean, half the head coaches in football call offensive plays, and the Steelers defense was really good in 19 and 20. Obviously, there's a lot of talent and investment there, but No, I don't think it should be a mandate that Tomlin gives up that role.
No, look, I mean that's obviously was his job before he entered the NFL. It's what he's comfortable doing on the defensive side of football. It's his team, and he can do whatever he wants. Now, it's going to be hard to attract a quote unquote coordinator to come in to to have the title coordinator, but what are you doing? Coordinating? It's more of a teaching job more than anything. I think that's one of the takeaways from what Keith Butler said, during his interview today, and just over time, there's just a position coach really with a title more than anything, and one that stands up there on Thursday during the media days and handles the interviews and all like that. But I think more than anything, we've kind of had an idea that Mike's primarily been the play caller there, and now over the course of this last 3 or 4 days we just now have kind of confirmation of that, even going back to kind of Dick LeBeau days that Keith Butler talked about today as well too. So if that's what Mike, whatever it takes to win the ball game is all all I care about there. And if Mike is comfortable in doing it, and obviously he is, and he's probably a control freak to some extent when it comes to that side of football, that's probably what you're going to get. So
Yeah, yeah.
make him do it? No, I don't think you make him give up responsibility. No.
The downside there, I suppose, is the idea that the guy that helps formulate the game plan, which is Butler and some of the coaches, and kind of install some of that stuff, they're not the guy that's talking to you on game day. And there's always the risk of a disconnect there. How much of there is one, I don't know, but that is probably one of the downsides to that element of things. But and then again, you're not going to get and bring in a high level DC because they're not going to be under the thumb of Tomlin with little game day control and a role. So you're not going to bring in a Fangio or a Martindale or some top level DC because of that. All right, $20 super chat, really generous here from Double HH. This super chat is intended for Trevor Kazora's future football equipment fund. Assumes
The
5%.
college fund.
Yeah, yeah, he ain't playing football. Doesn't have the genes. He'll have to get it from his mom. Assumes 5% S&P growth annualized. Of course, yeah, not a good day for the S&P. I don't think today, or at least recently. But putting all that aside, thank you so much for the very generous super chat. Double HH, really appreciate that. Another $10 super chat here comes from Chupa Thingy 6173. Good to hear from you. Travis, aka Chupa Thingy here. Where are the Steelers sitting in cap space as of today? Also, would you be opposed to a Bridgewater or Mariota brought in to compete as a bridge quarterback and draft one in 2023? Travis, I'm glad you asked that first question because Dave wrote about it here this morning. I'll pull up the article for you guys to check out about where the Steelers sit from their estimated cap space. And Dave, of course, I'll let you explain it in better detail than I could.
Yeah, and look, this is a snapshot as we sit here right now with the rule of 51. Now, this does not take into account the team just evidently signed Anthony Miller to a future contract today. That will eat up just a tiny bit more of salary cap space there if that ends up being a what they call a veteran benefit contract, which I think it is going to have a base salary of probably around a little over $1 million with a discounted cap charge around what did I say 825,000 on that. I think
Yeah,
Alex.
850, I want to say somewhere around there.
Anyway, this is a snapshot of where the team is right now. This and this sort of kind of look ahead is a look ahead just until the start of the new league year. Now, a lot going to potentially happen here in the next couple weeks. You're going to have that proven performance escalator kick in on Deontay Johnson. That's going to eat up about another $1.7 million of cap space there. You're going to have the placeholder, the workout bonus placeholder put in by the league here, not too far after the season ends, and that's going to be almost 850,000. That's going to go against the cap as well too. So I just took nearly another $1 million away from you right there. You already have one of your exclusive rights free agents tendered, and that's included in this snapshot in long snapper Christian Kuntz. You're probably going to have J.C. Hassenauer get an exclusive rights tender, so that's another probably about $70,000 in in cap eating that's going to happen there. And then what's going to happen with these restricted free agent tenders? We already got a good idea that Haskins is going to be tendered at that original round level at $2.54 million. Robert Spillane and Marcus Allen are likely to get restricted free agent tenders as well too. Marcus Allen I don't know. I'm probably going to get an original round tender there, 2.54 million, and the highest displaying tender would be is 2.54 million as well too. But they might just put a right of first refusal on him and save, I don't know, about $100,000 in cap space there. But if you look at if all three of those guys get tenders, it's going to use up around, I don't know what, around 1.8 million, 1.83 million in cap space there. And then what's going to happen with these unrestricted free agents? Are you going to get any of them re-signed before the middle of March? Positive, probably a good chance in
A
that.
couple, sure.
Yeah, a couple. So that's going to obviously eat into the cap space as well too. This is going to be a real fluid situation. And look, I think technically you could probably say that this team, realistically, as we sit here today, if you look at the business at hand, is around 25 million underneath the cap. And I know people are probably saying, yeah, but I read on another blog where they're going to have 60 or 70
80. I
million
heard
dollars,
80
or oh,
before.
80 million. There you go. Um, hey, just be careful what you read. If you trust somebody, have at it. But I've been doing this a long time now. I will tell you this: this cap series of mine will continue throughout this week. I'm going to tell you different avenues that past the new league year of the expenses that the Steelers are going to have, and you're not going to like that because that's going to eat into a lot of this cap money. But on the flip side, I'm going to show you options that the Steelers have to actually create more cap spaces as well too. Here's the takeaway: the Steelers are going to be able to do exactly probably what they want to do. I wouldn't expect them to go hog wild in free agency, but there's going to be 3, 4 probably outside free agents brought in. Probably not the names that people like or are talking about, but they'll be able to re-sign their own and get everything they need done, and probably not have to kick the can down the road as much as they've done in the past.
Yeah, so it's a fluid situation. That's kind of the overall takeaway. It's probably less space than people think, but you'll walk through it. And when is part two coming out? Do you think later this week or next week, or what's a rough?
Try to tomorrow, but
Okay.
Lord knows how this, you
Yeah.
know how the news wire goes there, and but 80 million in cap space. Wow, Alex, man.
Yeah, no, I legitimately remember reading that somewhere. I don't know where or who, and obviously it's not correct, so I didn't think about it too much. But yeah, just be careful of that information. That's a good point of emphasis there. So let me scroll back up here, get to some of the questions, and if you guys could like this stream as well, that'll help bring in more people as well. Would certainly appreciate that. First one comes from Verdon Barzy. Says, "Hey guys, happy Monday! Happy Monday to you as well. Glad you are all keeping this going. What is your honest assessment of Mason and Haskins as possible franchise quarterbacks in the NFL?" Honestly, I don't think either are that guy. Mason to me is a solid, competent backup quarterback who can spot start for you. That's basically his ceiling. Haskins is more of an unknown, more of a dart throw, but I don't see franchise quarterback. Could that change? If anyone's going to change, it'd be Haskins because I know less about him than I do Mason Rudolph. But no, I don't think the long term future of this team is on the roster now. Now, could Rudolph or Haskins start week one of 2022? Certainly that's possible, but long term, neither guy is the guy.
Can you win 8, 9, 10 games with a guy like Rudolph if you have a good defense and you have a running game? Yes. Can you get into this? Can you compete in the divisional round against these other teams like we saw happen on over the weekend? With a quarterback like that, or with Mariota, or with geez, throw out a name, Brissett,
Yeah,
with
Bridgewater,
the
whoever.
Bridgewater. No, the answer's probably no. Uh, welcome to my life when I was welcome to my life as a Steelers fan in the '80s. I don't know how many of you listening are old enough to remember that, but there was a long gap of just good enough seasons post Terry Bradshaw years there, and a lot of you probably don't realize this, but franchise quarterbacks just don't grow on trees. So now we sit and wait and see how long it takes for this team to secure a franchise quarterback. Will it be in this year's draft? I kind of doubt it, but I mean, you never know. More likely, it wouldn't be, but we'll see. One thing's for certain: this team is going to. It sounds like this team is going to keep their options open big time at the quarterback
Hmm.
position
Yeah.
here this offseason. I don't think it's going to end up being a Rodgers or a Russell Wilson or a Matt Ryan or any of these names the major media is throwing at you at people. That's just all talk and clickbait and all that kind of stuff there. But I don't know. Could you get a Mariota come in and maybe to compete and maybe draft a guy on top of it, and then have Mason and Haskins battle it out for us for one spot? That's obviously a possibility. And sometimes these things end up just taking care of themselves, right,
Hmm.
Alex? As we like to
Sure.
say, they work themselves out in a wash sometimes. Like in 2004, you had all those quarterbacks on the roster there, and Charlie Batch went to IR, and just funny how things work out. But
Yeah.
that's a long answer to the question. Probably not a quote unquote franchise quarterback on the roster right now.
Right. And get the second part of Chupa Thingy super chat. I apologize. Would we be opposed for Bridgewater or Mariota brought in to compete? No, I would not be opposed to that. Mariota makes some sense. I've been saving this quote. Maybe I'll tweet it out tomorrow or something. But I found what Tomlin said on Mariota prior to their 2017 game. And it wasn't anything spectacular, like crazy over the top, but it was a glowing remark of Marcus Mariota's play.
Yeah, it wouldn't be surprising. Look, I mean, this team likes pedigree, right? So it's probably going to be a pedigree guy.
Yeah. And the
Um,
mobility factor obviously
and
plays a role.
and the mobility factor, and kind of go from there. So just keep your fingers crossed. Maybe they can at least get where they can compete a little bit next season
Yeah.
on the offensive side of football.
Let's get through a couple more of these questions. Lumberzack, do you think there's a difference in the team dynamic due to the lack of being in Latrobe? Talks about the culture of Latrobe, and listen, I'm 100%, excuse me, 100% supportive of the idea of like being at Latrobe and the benefits of that, but I don't really know if you can really identify the team dynamic from being there versus not being there, and even if you could, we wouldn't be able to really assess that properly from our outsider point of view.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the whole team building concept. You think it helps probably play some sort of role in that. But is it a major
Yeah,
advantage
it's not make or break.
or whatnot? No, no. I mean, it's obviously nice for the fans and it's great atmosphere, and once again, probably does help some aspect of the team building process, but it's not the end all do all.
Let's see, John Pennington. Do you guys believe Tomlin has been calling the defensive plays, and do you think the upcoming interview is legit? I assume the latter is referring to Patrick Graham. Yeah, I mean it's legit in terms of it'll take place. I assume your question is, do you think Graham has an actual shot? I think Terrell Lawson is going to be the DC of this team next year. Some of this is Rooney Rule mandate fulfillment type of stuff, and yeah, I mean I was certainly skeptical of the idea of how much influence Tomlin had early on, but over the last really 2 years, I haven't said much about that because I recognize and have said this out loud that Tomlin's influence certainly had been growing, and Butler has said as much. And I still don't know exactly the dynamic there. Did Tomlin call every single defensive play? I don't know that for sure or not. Some rumors and reports were that Tomlin would jump in from time to time, and Butler called some as well. But obviously, Tomlin has had control of this defense, and that influence has grown over time.
Yeah, it's sad to say that it feels like token interviews coming up as part of the Rudy Rule process from the team that's from the team that of the Rudy family and all. But you know, it certainly appears that way on the outside that's what's going to happen. A couple of token minority interviews, you
Yeah.
know.
Mike Adesso, in your opinion, is Omar Khan more valuable to the organization than potential of 2 third-round picks? What if they are planning on promoting Hunt? Then Khan will most likely leave anyways, unfortunately. Yeah, I know the allure, and they would get 2 third-round comp picks, one in 22, one in 23, if Khan were hired to be a GM somewhere, say by the Chicago Bears. This interview reportedly was taking place today. I think most people would say yes to that, and it's hard for us to really answer, fully because we're not in that building again. But I don't want to overlook or underestimate the loss of an executive that had been with the team for 20 years and had a really important key role. Even though he was just known as the quote unquote cap guy, I think that losing him would be a bigger loss than people think.
Yeah, but in the same breath, everybody's replaceable to some degree,
Sure, yeah, I'm not saying he's irreplaceable, but that's a 21-year executive that has been the right hand man of Colbert. That's a lot of losses, assuming Colbert's gone as well.
Sure, sure. I mean, look, you know me, I'd have a Omar Khan fathead up on my
Right.
office wall probably if they made such an animal there. But in the same breath, I think the most curious thing at this point be honest with you, when people bring up Omar Khan, is just wondering why he hasn't been able to land a job to this point. You know,
Right. Again, he should
that
be
that's the
The
biggest
Texans
question.
GM. Like I don't. It's a shocker that he's not running the Texans right now. He was supposed to.
I mean,
Um,
that's when I think about when people bring up Omar Khan. It's not so much how the organization would do without him, and it's just the fact that I wonder why he hasn't gotten a job yet.
Yeah. I think the other factor is that his replacement, Samir Suleiman, was hired away by David Tepper and the Panthers a couple years ago. So I think the loss would have been mitigated had Suleiman still been with the team. But they really don't have an in-house replacement. Again, it's not irreplaceable, but you lose Colbert, you lose Khan, you lose Ben. It's a lot of tenured, guys that are leaving the organization potentially at the same time. Next question comes from Johan Hernandez. Butler was also the de facto outside linebackers coach. Will the Steelers be looking to promote or hire anyone to that position? Denzel Martin, perhaps. Carl Dunbar really primarily worked with the edge guys. Butler had done less of that as DC. So really, Dunbar would continue with that role. Could Denzel get named there? He's the assistant outside linebackers coach now. Could he go full time? That's possible, but really, it's been Carl Dunbar because the ends in Pittsburgh, Watt and Highsmith are basically treated like defensive linemen at this point. Let's see. Next question comes from Ross Swisher. Hey, Alex and Dave, do you guys think McFarland will ever get a chance as the backup, or does the staff like Balaj and Snell more? They like Snell for special teams. Will McFarland get a chance? His time's running short. I mean, let's assume he's carried into camp next year, which is no guarantee, but let's assume it. He'll have to really show up. This has been a disappointing year for McFarland. Had the injury, had the COVID, never could find a hat behind Najee Harris. It's going to be really tough for him to carve out any sort of role.
It sure is. And someone said, "How dare you call it disappointing season for Anthony McFarland?" I don't know how
What
you
else do you
can.
call it? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. And look, you lost. And look, we knew he's not a special teams demon, and that's okay. But the guy that he was, technically kind of losing a helmet to, Kalen Balaj, was only really when you talk about special teams contributions with him. I was just researching this the other
Yeah,
day,
it wasn't
Alex.
much.
It was just kickoff return.
Is that it? Just one of the up guys on kick return?
Yeah, just kickoff return. So it
Okay.
wasn't even like he was out there on the coverage
Right. He
teams.
was not a four-phase guy like Snell was.
Right. He wasn't even a four-phase guy. So you tell me that he's that much more valuable on a couple of kickoffs? How many kickoffs do the Steelers have?
Mm-hmm.
On top of it, you tell me that much of a value on kickoffs and on the offensive side of the football, and that McFarland couldn't squeeze his way in there for a couple more helmets than what he got. It is really disappointing. So,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, look, he's under contract. He's going to be, barring him doing something stupid during the offseason, he should be around the team all offseason. But I wouldn't go out, rush out and buy any Anthony McFarland jerseys if
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening to this right now.
Sure, they're flying off the shelves. Jonathan Mason, is the DC's primary role essentially assisting Tomlin with scheme then, regarding Butler's comments that he didn't really have a play calling component of his job? Yeah, Butler basically said that he and Austin and the coaches would help formulate the game plan during the week. Tomlin would come in, look at it, offer his 2 cents, and so Butler's role was more of the Monday through Saturday role, and obviously, Wednesday's usually the day that the game plan gets set and installed and stuff like that when they start practicing and in morning meetings and stuff. So Butler's role was kind of more of the game plan itself, while Tomlin would be the guy that would call the plays based off that game plan.
Probably shuffled personnel in and off the field too during games.
Yeah, he still
Or
carried
helped
the
in that.
card though. He did have the card, and so it was a small card. I don't know if that's a whole thing or not, but
It's not the size of the card. It's not the size
yeah.
of the card. It's the amount of calls
It's
that you
how you
make,
call the
Al.
plays. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I do wonder what exactly his game day role was, and I wish they would ask him. I thought it was a really good interview that Butler had on 93.7 The Fan, but I wish they would ask that question about what exactly was your game day role then. But yeah, it might have been some personnel stuff, which the positional coaches also handled, but we don't have a great answer towards what his actual Sunday duties were.
I bet Mike. He mentioned early in that interview or during that interview that he still got to go back and clean out some office stuff and all.
Yeah,
Could
door's gonna
be.
be locked.
Yeah,
Security.
that key card ain't gonna work
Yeah.
probably if Mike Tom. Look, I mean, it's fun to hear that stuff after the fact and kind of a few things that he said. It did indeed kind of catching me off guard, there. But I just wonder. I wonder what's to gain there. You know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Ross Swisher, does it hurt Dave seeing the Bengals become the dynasty of the division? I don't know if I'd call them the dynasty yet, but certainly they're going to be a front runner. I know it hurts my dad who hates Bengals fans. They don't deserve that team. Hopefully, refs finally call push-offs on Chase. Does it hurt you, Dave, to see the Bengals' success?
Oh, look, I mean, obviously Steelers fan and all like that. I don't root for the Bengals. I root against the Bengals quite a bit. I would deep down inside much rather see a team other than a team in the AFC North win it all. I mean, is it going to kill me if they go on to the Super Bowl and win it? No, but uh, look, I like Patrick Mahomes. You know, obviously his his wife on social media and his brother aren't kind of make that, I guess, that family kind of, or make Patrick Mahomes a little less likable. But I think for the most part, I think he's a pretty good kid overall, and just happens to that ends up being the people that he's surrounded by there. So now that Buffalo's out of it, I was kind of silently, I guess, rooting for Buffalo in this thing, but now with them out. Yeah, I guess I'll root for KC now.
Yeah, I don't really.
And look, I like Stafford too.
Mhm.
I would have no problem. I don't think rooting for Stafford in this thing either.
Yeah, I don't really carry a rooting interest once the Steelers are eliminated. I was just hoping for some good football, and it's going to be really hard to top this weekend's slate of games. So I'm kind of just watching now. Let's see. Storm Woodside, what are your guys' thoughts on Sam Howell? We have a player profile, our first player profile of the year, hopefully the first of 256 is our goal this year from Jonathan Heitritter. I'm not going to bring it up because it might get copyright claim because of some of the footage in there, but you guys can check it out. You'll see it on the site right now. I think I'm probably going to like him more than what most Steeler fans, and maybe even you, Dave, will ultimately conclude, but I don't have any firm or final thoughts on Sam Howell yet.
I don't either. But do listen to the podcast on Wednesday
Yes.
because we got a couple, two or three guys that have watched. Look, Alex and I are, full disclosure here. Alex and I are just getting started in getting into some of these guys. I mean, all of it's all just been kind of surface Saturday casual football fan watching up until now. Now's the time when we get really down and dirty and start digging deeper into these guys. I've watched a little bit of Sam Howell over weekend. Obviously, been busy doing with other end of the season type stuff on there. So I don't have a firm. As I told Alex this morning, it is extremely hard, especially me. I am so analytics, to my core analytics and measurable based before I even hit the film. That sometimes it's hard not to be biased when it comes to some of this stuff, and to see a quarterback under 6'1", like Hal, it it really, the bias comes to the forefront there. So I've got to be really, really careful of going into this and be cognizant of the fact that, look, there's a lot of undersized quarterbacks now in the league more than ever. This league isn't the age-old 6'4", 225 quarterback like it used to be. And you hear
Hmm.
Mike Tomlin talk about the mobility factor. I will say this, for a guy his size, he can sling that football, man. I mean,
Yeah.
he might have the second best arm, at least in these top 5 or 6 quarterbacks here. But
Who's number one?
no,
Who you putting one?
I mean, Carson can sling it too, man.
Okay. Okay. I get
Carson
you.
can sling it too. Uh, but best thing we could tell anybody listening to this right now is tune in Wednesday, because we hope to have Jonathan Heitritter, Tyler Wise, and hopefully even Devin Jackson. And those guys all have watched a lot more tape on these quarterbacks. And I think the crux of our podcast on Wednesday is going to be talking about this quarterback class ahead of the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, and then we'll get to see them at the Senior Bowl. Those of us who are going there, which is myself and Jonathan Heitritter and Tyler Wise and Jacob Harrison. So we'll get an up close and personal view of those guys this time next week. Grotty
And I'll,
Band.
I'll I'll be charting a lot of the quarterback stuff this year. I
Hmm.
got a much easier way to kind of chart some of this stuff too, so
Good.
that'll help when looking at this some of the stuff. So pay attention to my Twitter and SteelersDepot.com as we go on into the off season here.
Grotty Band, stick with Mason for a year. Maybe go after more pressing concerns rather than just throwing a quarterback in the fire. I can't think of a more pressing concern than a franchise quarterback. But point taken, if it's not there, you can't force the issue and then invest that capital, set your franchise back a couple of years. So that is a route they could take. It could be the bridge option, the veteran guy, Mason plus Haskins, throw them all to the, throw them all on the wall and see what happens while you address offensive line and other positions. So that is possible. Again, I think all options are on the table right now. Let's see. Next question comes from, and someone was criticizing me. Where was this at? Here we go. Virgin in the, and I probably always say this wrong. I apologize, but the criticism is, so Alex, if you really think Hayward is the Steelers or Stillers MVP, then Watt cannot be the Defensive Player of the Year. Come on. So that was in my Steelers awards today, which I'll pull up, calling Hayward the MVP. Point taken, but I would say, and this is a little semantics, but MVP versus Player of the Year, which doesn't, Player of the Year is not always a value thing. It's the best player defensively. And I think Hayward, from the heart and soul aspect, had that value. And so I think you can differentiate the two between MVP, most valuable player, and who was just flat out the best defensive player of the year. And so that's my way I'm rationalizing it. So yeah, I don't know if you'll accept that or not. Probably not. But that's I had that thought obviously, and that was my conclusion. Let's see. Next question comes from Braden Miller. Hey guys, thanks for the hard work you do. Thank you, Braden. Quick question. I know we're very early into this process, but if both of you were in the GM's chair, who would you pick at 20 overall, Howell or Linderbaum? It's far too early for those kind of questions right now, Braden. Do you have any which way you're leaning right now, Dave, if I made you answer that question right now?
No, I mean, it's unfair to answer that when I haven't, let us deep dive these things. I know everybody wants instantaneous hot takes and all like that, but I'm not just going to throw stuff out like that without, having 3 games, fully games watched under my belt. I've watched more of Lindenbaum than I have. I mean, he's an exciting young man, but for sure. But I mean, I want to give Howell a fair shake and
Mhm.
complete out 3 games with him.
Quickly on Linderbaum, do you think he's too small? That is the one consistent criticism of him, is that I mean, if Kendrick Green is too small, Linderbaum, I believe, is smaller than Green is.
I mean, do we know how real big he is truly? I mean, we're going to get a better idea. This is obviously, one of the things, you look at a guy like Loudermilk, right? I mean, uh, we didn't really have a good sense of really how big he was or wasn't throughout the offseason with him,
Well,
you
I think we
know?
knew he was a pretty big guy. We knew he was
Yeah,
tall.
but we didn't know uh I think most of the reported weights with him was around what 275 or something with him, wasn't it? And but yeah, I think by the time he got in, he's like, what do you like 290 or something?
Well, he was listed in like the 290s at Wisconsin, came in his pro day at 270 for some reason, dropped weight, and then added it once Pittsburgh drafted him. I think it's easier in some ways to go down than to go up in weight. But Linderbaum's probably going to come in under 300 pounds. He's probably, I don't know how tall he is, but he's not super tall and going to be sub 300 pounds, probably.
I mean, I think he's the kind of guy though that you could probably wouldn't have a problem getting to, 304, 305 or something like that, But uh look, I mean, you see him. I tell you where you see him a lot of, and that's on top of other players.
Yeah,
whereas Kendrick Green, you just see on the ground, period, not on the top of nobody there. So I got to watch a couple more games
sure.
on him.
Matt Bell, if Dallas releases him, would you like the Steelers to sign Leighton Vander Esch? I know they had interest in him coming out of Boise State. I know he's had the neck issue, some injury concerns. The talent's still kind of been there in flashes. I haven't thought about free agency plans too much, Matt, but I get the question or get the suggestion. And, do I hate it off the top? No, but you do wonder about the medical side of things with Vander Esch.
Yeah, I do. And that's been one of the things with him since he came out, since his draft day and all like that, and not, uh, not overly explosive on tape. Smarter than he is. He definitely got the football IQ more so than he does the point A to point B. I mean, he obviously has made some plays, but I don't think I'd be all about trying to break the bank and go after him.
Yeah.
No.
Comment from Mr. ABS. Less of a question here, but I wanted to read this out loud because I appreciate the insight. To compete in today's NFL, the quarterback has to be able to move. I highly doubt we even entertain a vet quarterback that does not have that dynamic. Defenses are faster and extending plays is a premium. Well taken. Agreed with that largely, and that's why
Yeah, that's what we said.
the names we suggest are guys who can move. The Mariota, the Bridgewater, I think Brissett can move a little bit, and he's a bigger guy that can kind of run some of the quarterback sneaks and stuff like that. Obviously, can't move the way that Mariota can. I mention people get on me for Brissett. I mainly mention that not because I love Jacoby Brissett, but because Matt Canada worked with him at NC State, and we talk about comfortable, Canada working with a guy that he knows, a guy the quarterback knows him. It was kind of an awkward bit between Ben and Canada. Well, Brissett would kind of be the opposite of that in the sense of they know each other well, work with each other, and Brissett also kind of has that big body the Steelers kind of like that's in that Ben mold from a couple years ago. Grotty Band, the Steelers are requesting an interview for the Giants DC. That's Patrick Graham. Do you think he's an actual candidate for the position? You never know what could happen, and his situation's uncertain right now with the Giants. They're interviewing someone else for DC. Could Grant even become the head coach there? It's possible, though unlikely. Again, what I said earlier, I'm pretty confident the consensus seems to be that Terrell Austin will be the team's next defensive coordinator.
Yeah, look, they should at least hopefully keep an open mind on this, and at least be upfront and honest, and tell Graham, or Tom, and tell Graham that if you're the defensive coordinator, you're probably not really going to be the defensive coordinator. That kind of you don't want to miscommunication, be in run into a Melvin Ingram type
And
situation.
trading him to KC midway through the year.
That kind of stuff there. But look, Alex and I have talked about this dating back to the almost, I think, right around the start of this past season, saying this is probably going to be it for Keith Butler, and that in all likelihood it was lining up for Terrell Austin to be the guy. So from where I sit right now, I mean, anything can happen. I'll be surprised if it's not Austin.
Yeah, and at one point I did think Carl Dunbar had a chance just because would Austin want to be the DC knowing that he kind of wouldn't be the DC, but then I thought Austin's already working under Mike Tomlin, so it really wouldn't be a difference. I guess the only downside to being DC is you're going to get yelled at a lot more on Twitter. So if you're the DC and your defense doesn't play well, then
Mm.
when you're the assistant coach. But I think Austin probably is not on Twitter too much, so don't think it'll hurt him. Double HH with a comment here. I think Khan hasn't landed an NFL job because the NFL is an old boys network still, players and guys with some connections with the owners. That's possible. I do wonder, is he kind of looked down upon because he's not the scout? He doesn't have the football background that some other guys do. But again, the Texans reportedly were about to hire him. They were working on the contract, and Jack Easterby comes in and off the board picks Nick Caserio because they worked together when Easterby was a chaplain at New England. So, like, Khan should be the Texans GM right now. It just got out of whack at the literal last second. Have a $5 super chat again from Travis Troopathingy 6173. Would you bring in Jason Kelsey to talk, given the Steelers' issues along the O-line last season? If no, what free agents would you go out for? Not sure what you say to talk, I guess, for a visit to potentially sign. I haven't looked at a free agent list yet, and those names will change over the next 2 months essentially. I'm sure one name that'll get talked about a bit is Ryan Jensen from Tampa Bay, who's coming last year of his contract with the Bucs. Season just ended, and so that's a name that'll probably be popped up a lot for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, look, Jason Kelsey's like mid-30s or something. Now, look, I remember some fairly recent film. Guy can still get downfield and take care of business that way. Got to be careful with the guaranteed money on these older guys like this. Now, I'd be more apt to have a little bit younger guy in Ryan Jensen. Look, they're both nasty son of a guns, So and they're both experienced, and both could obviously help bring that into the offensive line room there. But I'll tell you what, the Steelers have got to do something, I think, at the center position, whether that be through the draft here or through some sort of experienced free agent there, because I know Mike Tomlin talked at the end of year press conference, leaving the door open for Kendrick Green, and that's fine not to completely shut the door on it, but man, you better have an option if he doesn't progress like I don't think he will at this point. I mean, you obviously don't want to throw. I would be more apt to get to find out now if he could play guard any at all, right out of the shoot there this offseason, and just go ahead and make plans elsewhere at center. And obviously, J.C. Hassenauer shouldn't be that guy. He was a minor upgrade over Kendrick Green. He was an upgrade over Kendrick Green, but nobody was going to give him any Pro Bowl or any All Pro votes when it came to that. So my recommendation is to do something other than what you had this year, whether it be draft another center or go out there and get a veteran free agency, a veteran in free agency, and one in free agency nowadays is going to cost you probably at least $6-7 million per.
Yeah, and Jensen's making 10 million this year with Tampa, so he's going to take less than that. I mean, it depends on the market, but probably not much less than that if he takes less than that at all. Tim Chase says we need an upgrade in the backup running back department. Yeah, I get that, but how much of an investment are you going to make there when Najee's your guy? Maybe somebody, but it's hard to really invest money or capital into that. Mike, good.
It counteracts what you just did, right?
Yeah.
You telling me that you're going to spend a first round draft pick on a running back, yet you're not. That's the catch-22 with that position there, especially when any first rounder, right? You spend a first round draft pick on a player, you're almost committed to playing that guy as much as the Steelers played Najee Harris, right? I mean, if you play him less than 85%, does it? You get into the whole justification aspect. So if you go out and you spend money on a quality backup, how are you going to get that backup on the field? And when you do, it makes it look like, well, then why the heck, why didn't you go a more fungible solution with that position if you're going to do more of a kind of committee approach there? So good luck. They do need, I think more than Benny Snell or Caleb Balaj and all like that, but I think you're looking at one of these, older, I don't know, how much does Giovanni Bernard have left in his tank at this point? Something along those lines is probably what you're looking at.
I really think you're probably looking at a draft pick, a day 3 guy, because what free agent's going to want to sign here knowing that Harris plays 80% of the time? It's just tough to find that role. But the catch-22 is you also want to protect yourself. If Harris goes down, you're not running after Benny Snell and Balaj for 3/4 of a season or however long the injury is, So, you also kind of want to protect yourself because you're built around having a workhorse back. When this team has lost James Conner or Bell in the past, they really struggled because they lost their offense was built around that workhorse running back. So there is that kind of dilemma that you have there.
You know what Uncle Dave would do?
Oh God, what would Uncle Dave do?
Uncle Dave would bring what Uncle Dave would do?
Oh,
He'd bring in
a million undrafted free agents.
Yeah, 8 or 9 undrafted free agent rookies in. Let them run around out there all summer and also pay attention to the preseason. All those young rookies that maybe might not going to make a squad for one reason or the other. That's what I would do that every year regardless. I'd have 8 or 9, 10 running backs in camp as undrafted free agents and see if I can't get me a fungible one out of that group.
Bunch of Willie Parkers running around Latrobe. That's the idea. Hey, it worked.
Hey, it worked.
Mike Adesso, any plans this offseason doing live mocks again on the channel? Yeah, I plan to. Not anytime soon, though. But when we get close to the time and I feel more prepared and those things start getting kicked up, then yeah, I plan to do hopefully a little bit more than I did last year, but no live mock drafts anytime soon, sorry to say. Sean Pennington, why do they continue to sign Trey Edmonds, who offers nothing to this team but getting a living on the practice squad? Yeah, there's some versatility. He wears a lot of hats and special teams value, but his ceiling is capped. But it is some of that scout team versatile aspect that probably keeps him around.
He's evidently too. I don't know if you ever pay attention to his Instagram channel and all like that. No. Very down to earth, very motivational speaker like. I think it's more of a culture locker room move more than anything else, and kind of guy to bring in to probably good with the younger kids in their locker room as well too. And look, you got 90-man roster during the offseason. I get why people see that and say, why in the heck, but he does have some special teams value to him to some extent too, and just probably he is a Mewaldy Moore of Mike Tom, a little bit lesser, obviously from a talent standpoint, but probably the Mewaldy Moore type kind of player that Mike Tomlin likes to have in that locker room there.
Yeah, he had a good interview. Him and Terrell were on with Juju the other day on Steelers. I think YouTube channel had a nice interview there. That's a good point about I don't follow him on Instagram, so I didn't know some of that stuff. Yeah, listen, if the worst thing they're doing is signing Terrell Edmonds to a future or Trey Edmonds to a future contract, then things are going pretty well. That's the way I'll put it.
I'm not saying I advocate it or whatnot. I'm
Yeah.
just saying that that's probably why they do it.
That's a good point. Jason Bodine, hello, Daleks, is a weekly greeting to bi-weekly greeting to us, Dave. I know what I think, but what do you think is the team should do earlier in the draft? O-line or D-line? I'll hang up and listen. Hashtag O-line. So that's his answer there. Yeah, I'm O-line as well. There's a lot more moving pieces, a lot more free agents, a lot less success. And again, Aldualu's going to come back in 2022. Hopefully, Tuitt will come back. We do not know. It's still up in the air, but it is a possibility with the ascension of Isaiah Loudermilk getting reps, Chris Wormley playing well. If Tuitt comes back, your D line's kind of settled. O line though is much more uncertain.
Absolutely, offensive line and probably interior at that. Now we'll see what happens with the. We're going to get a lot of answers, I think, by the time the start of the new league year rolls around. What are they going to do with Chikwamo Coro for? What are they going to do with Zach Banner here? You get those get answers to those questions right there. That'll give you a pretty good sign. And also when you get into free agency, are they going to spend money maybe on a veteran tackle to come in? And then I have a feeling it's going to be interior offensive lineman is what they're going to address maybe in the first couple of rounds there. Personally, like I said, if you don't address center in free agency, you damn sure better get one in the draft. That's the way
Yeah,
I look at it.
I hear that. Got a couple of people, Tim, Mike, asking about could James Conner return, sign that 1 year prove it deal with Arizona. Listen, he had what, 14, 17 touchdowns this year. Does he want to come back to sit on the bench and watch Najee Harris carry the ball?
Nope.
I don't think so. So nice thought there. I cannot really see a scenario in which James Conner returns to Pittsburgh.
Me either.
Let me go back up here. 109 people in the chat. About 15 minutes left here in today's live stream. So appreciate you guys being here. Be sure to ask your questions before Dave and I wrap up. Anthony, how do you feel about a bridge quarterback like Mariota, Mitch, or Minshew? I like Mariota the most of those names. I know you're probably asking more broadly about just bridge quarterbacks. Would not trade for one. Would not trade for Minshew, and I'm not a big fan of Trubisky. So overall, do I support the idea of the bridge quarterback? Sure. Of those names, I like Mariota the best.
Yeah, I would agree with Alex. I'm damn sure not trading for one. Heck, this team don't have draft capital as it is. And if the report from Nick Corte
Mm-hmm.
from over the caps correct, and it's hard to imagine Nick missing much when it comes to these compensatory picks. I mean, it looks like the Steelers are just going to get one lousy fourth rounder out of this. Now, we'll see what happens with. There's obviously the kind of the what they call that 6 rounder
The conditional
from
pick.
yeah, the conditional. I contacted the NFL and they would not answer my questions about what makes it conditional. But
Did they
usually,
respond? They responded to you though.
yeah.
Okay.
I get them to respond to me. It's just getting actual
Answer.
info from them sometimes. But usually, what you see happen in these later round conditionals is they usually end up being the round that it's in.
Right. It's going to be a
So
six for
it's
Ingram.
probably going to be a 6 round pick when it comes for what they get back from Melvin Ingram there at kind of as advertised, just with the conditional removed, obviously. But from there, I mean, you don't have a lot of draft capital to play with unless you get unless you have a guy like Omar Khan go away or something like that to another team. So we'll see what happens there. So no, I'm not trading for one. And man, bite your tongue about spending another mid-round draft pick on a
Mm-hmm.
running back there. I mean, this team's got so many needs, and holes that they got to fix and all like that. But my inclination would be offensive line at some point early, and maybe in the mid rounds there, one of those wide receivers that can got that oh crap speed.
John Knox, a question, but a rhetorical one. Check this out. Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, Burrow, and Rudolph. Which of these reindeer do not belong? Yeah, point taken there. And so that is the ills of not having a franchise quarterback, competing against teams that do have them. And the AFC has a lot of them and a lot of good ones, obviously. Let's see. Next question comes from Let's see, Tim Chase, how much do you think the Steelers would have to give up to get a top three quarterback in the draft? I mean, that depends on it. Just depends on the pick and where that is. Top three is a lot more vague this year because of the order and who that guy is. So they'll have to give up something fairly substantial to go up, say, 10 spots in the draft. But what that is, I don't. You can't really pin that down for sure right now.
And look, I mean, who is, what is, you don't want this team just drafting a quarterback just to draft one.
Sure.
Although you won't ever get that across to most of the fan base, they just want one. They want a shiny new first round toy to play with. But the Steelers might end up maybe with two quarterbacks probably by the time, if that they really deemed that they would want potentially in the first round. And if they can't get that guy, they're not just going to draft one just to draft one. I wouldn't think. At least I hope they wouldn't.
Yeah, no, I don't think they would either. But that question just really hard to answer in such just kind of hypothetical terms right now. Ross Wisher, Loudermilk will be like Chris Hoke or Brett at best. If he turns out to be Brett Kiesel, I'll be really happy with a fifth round pick turning into or fourth round pick, whatever he was in the fifth round pick. They traded a fourth to get him.
Look, I mean, I know it's easy to try to say that based on draft pedigree and all, but I know my thoughts on draft day last year versus on into looking at the tape on him, on into the what did we say he played 200 something snaps or whatnot? What did we say
Yeah, I
the other day?
forget. Somewhere 280. I forget what the number was. I think it was 280.
I mean, for what he put on tape this year wasn't bad. I mean, and I don't think he's hit his ceiling yet for whatever that's worth. I'm not saying this guy's going to become the next Cameron Hayward by any stretch of imagination, but like Alex said, if this guy becomes a Brett Kiesel for you, there's nothing wrong with that at all. He's got a good mentor there. He's got evidently good work ethic, good kid. He's got most of the tools. Can he become a better pass rusher? Period.
Yeah.
That's because there's things on tape. Now he needs to get stronger. He needs to get more consistent against the run.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you see him stand up some offensive linemen and flash and discard and do all the things that you kind of would like to see out of one of those 3-eye 4 techs, if you will. That aspect. Now can he learn from Cam Hayward and become a better pass rusher? That's going to be the critical thing that's going to separate him from either being a future starter or a backup for the next couple of years.
Yeah, that's where his ceiling will be determined. I think his floor is already pretty high as a rotational run stuffer. Still work to do, but I think he'll grow into that quite nicely. But pass rush or lack thereof is the biggest issue with this game, which he acknowledged last week talking to reporters.
I mean, he's surprised. His tape surprised me, especially
Me too.
From what I saw this year.
But it was good coaching. He was really well coached at Wisconsin under their D-line coach who coached Aaron Donald in the pit. I forget his name, but that was good coaching. And Jim Leonard's one of the top DCs in football, so that kind of environment probably got him ready for a moment like 2021. Chief Thunder 247. You'll get a laugh out of this one, Dave. Hello, are the rumors true? Rodgers to Steelers, 5 to 6 years, $300 million. No. That is, I don't even know where you heard that from. I assume nowhere reputable. Rodgers is still a Packer right now, and until that changes, then it's just a lot of talk.
Oh Lord! Next question, please.
I will say, I think there is a higher chance of Rodgers coming to Pittsburgh than you do. I'm not saying it's a high chance, but I think I think it's a better chance than what you're offering it.
Okay.
But
all right.
I'm just he's very we'll find out an answer soon. But the way that thing ended in Green Bay, man, is about as bad as it could have ended based on how that season was going for him. But we'll see. Let's see, Mr. Yaya, who do you see starting at quarterback next year? Mason. As of today, it's Mason, but these things can change pretty quickly. So I really don't have a good sense for it. But I think again, all options are on the table.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I mean, I think it's going to be Mason, or it's going to be a guy like Mariota, or. I still have, even if they drafted a quarterback, I find it hard to believe that would be your week 1 guy. So I mean, if I was betting right now, I'd have to, and you're not going to get, I wouldn't bet on it because you don't get Mason's the favorite right now. So really your money's not really working that good for you in that kind of bet anyway. So, but I mean, right now Mason's the leader in the clubhouse, but there's a lot of golf left.
Yeah, well said. They're only on hole 2, or
hole
I don't know my golf
Three.
terms. Yeah. Mark Malone, Rodgers wouldn't play for Tomlin under any circumstances. Don't understand that comment. Seems to like Tomlin quite a bit, talked him up a lot, so I'm not really sure what you mean by that. Todd Williams, hello, fellows. Thanks for a great season. Thank you, Todd. We cannot make the same mistake with Witherspoon that we made with Hilton by letting him go. Do you agree? I wouldn't compare Witherspoon and Hilton as the same situation. Hilton,
Mhm.
you had much more. You knew him a lot more. It was 4 years of great play. Witherspoon was about 6 weeks, but yeah, obviously you want to entertain the idea of bringing him back. And if you don't bring him, you don't bring back Joe Hayden, then you really have a void at that left cornerback spot. So, but I wouldn't make that comparison 1-to-1 Witherspoon versus Hilton.
Yeah, there's no way I make that comparison, but I would do everything you can to at least keep him in Pittsburgh. I would be real careful with that guaranteed money with him as well too. There says, look, there's still the guy has warts, like it or not, and a lot of it's tackling, a lot of it's run support, and all like that. Obviously, showed some good things that got him a helmet, kept him on the field from a coverage aspect there. But there were still some warts and some man coverage as well there too. I think you do have to re-sign him, but I would just be careful with the guaranteed money in there. And there's no way I would compare it to Mike Hilton now.
Lewis D. Cup more questions. Should the Steelers target Xavier Rhodes to replace Joe Hayden? That's one aging corner for another. I know Ray Rhodes has kind of bounced back a bit, but just re-sign Witherspoon. Probably be my advice there. Ross Swisher, Dave, have you ever talked about how the Ingram signing is the reason we lost Roche? Basically pushing Roche down a rung, got him released, and then claimed off of waivers by the Giants.
I mean, you can dice it up however you
Yeah.
want to dice it up, I guess. If then that and all like that. I mean, uh, or was it the decision to keep Jerron Jones? Did that get Roche off the roster?
Yeah, I
You
would
know.
say that much more significantly than Melvin Ingram. Good
So a
point.
lot of people tend to forget that aspect of it. And Jerron Jones, only lasted a couple. He was out the door and he shows up on. Is he still with the Rams on their special
Hmm,
on their 53 and
I do
and
not
and,
know.
and special teams there. Look, I mean, you hate to lose those kind of guys like Roche and all like that, but uh, it's not. Let before we go, dunking on anybody on that. Let's see how Roche kind of progresses. Look, I mean, you hate to see any draft pick go out that way. A guy that you probably think you
Sure.
could slide to the practice squad and maybe develop, and then he gets claimed, off waivers and all like that. But let's not discount the fact that maybe Jerron Jones, maybe Quincy Roche should have been a little bit better special teams player out of the shoot, and maybe that doesn't happen then.
Robert Ellis saying Linderbaum from Iowa and shift Green to right guard. That'll be a common thought, but you made the good point about putting Green. If you're going to move him to guard, put him back at left guard for
Oh
the whole
yeah,
comfort aspect.
man. You're at the kid's already had so much on his plate, right?
Yeah, right, right.
You're already moving them from asking them from going to playing 5 games in Illinois at center to being a starting center in the NFL, and that doesn't go well. And now you want to play guard at the NFL level, and instead of moving them back to left guard, his natural position, you're going to put him at right guard. Give the kid a chance, and by giving him a chance, I mean put him back at his more natural position at left guard. And look, in the process, you take Kevin Dotson, you move him back to right guard where he played 55 games at Louisiana Lafayette. You think that guy wouldn't be happy to move maybe back to left, I mean, to right guard, his more natural position? So I, I I wouldn't understand the logic if it doesn't go that way. If you're going to move Green to guard, I think you
Yeah,
got to put him at left guard and move Dotson over to right guard.
agreed. It's a really, really good point by you, Dave. If the whole point about moving Green is to increase his comfort level, then put him back to where he played the most, his comfort level at left guard. And Dotson, well, I think is settled in at left guard, to go back to right guard, and it's kind of his natural spot as well. Charlie Brown says Tennessee center is a free agent. Ben Mason. I believe you mean Ben Jones. Ben Mason's the fullback from Michigan, but that's another name to the list, assuming he is a free agent. I'm not aware of his contract status. S. Dresden, we need Cower era type players on defense. I think Sam Williams out of Ole Miss and Devontae Wyatt out of Georgia fit that bill. Yeah, just go get your defense from the SEC. Go get those Georgia kids and call it a day. It's kind of the thought.
Boy, that old inside linebacker of theirs is something to watch, isn't
Dean,
he?
yeah, we got a report on
Yeah.
him coming up soon.
All right.
So looking forward to that. And speaking of Georgia kids, Tyrone saying if Jordan Davis fell to us, would you take him in the first? That'll be the debate. Do you take a nose tackle in the first round? It's kind of like the
No.
running back version of the defensive side of the football. I don't know. I don't know where I stand on that, man. This run defense was so bad, and that would cure a lot of things. But Alualu's coming back. I want Travius Adams look good. Are they good as Davis could be? Who knows? But I'm more open to it, I guess, than Davis from his no there.
Right.
Uh,
Middle rounds is a different story. I don't
yeah.
think I'd spend a first.
See if I can find a couple more questions as we're running low on time. Lagoon says, Alex, thank you for all the great insight. You rock, brother. The 242 appreciate you. Looks like Bahamas, maybe. So I'm not entirely sure of the zip code, but thank you so much. Is Merriweather a southpaw? No, I think he's a righty. I don't think he's. I think Tua's dealing left-handed quarterback in the NFL, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Is it likely we get a DC from outside instead of internal promotion? Nope. It's more likely that Terrell Austin, an internal hire, becomes the new DC of this team. Charlie Brown, Alex Cade Mays seems like a Tomlin type of player. Plays all 5 positions on the O line. Okay, I'll have to check him out. Mike Adesso, am I focusing on Mobile, O line, and off ball linebackers is kind of where I'm starting right now. I don't have any particular player, but I'm doing more research trying to cram before I leave. Let's see. Lauren saying about what quarterback they should take in 2023. I'm barely even with it for 2022, so I apologize. Probably don't have a great answer for you. Dave, I'm assuming you're in the same boat.
Say the question again.
What quarterback should we draft in 2023, given that it has a deep quarterback class? I don't have
Oh
a good
Lord,
answer.
I'm not even there yet. Oh
Okay.
Lord, no. Let's let us learn more about 2022 first.
Yeah, and let's see if I can find any more questions here. Appreciate you guys being 124 people in the chat. Really good turnout here for the season being over. Wally Locke got a bit of inside info. You ought to take a look into Carson Strong. Listen, Dave has this covered. Dave has the Carson Strong market on lockdown over there in Vegas.
What they say they got some inside. They must not listen to the show.
Yeah. I think the inside info was just to watch Carson Strong, which Dave has done so admirably.
Lord, I talk about, and it's rare for me to talk about college players in season. But how long have I been talking about Carson Strong, Alex?
Since the day he was born, I think. A long
Not that
time.
long, but I mean, early on into this season, all like that. Look, I love the kid. He can make every throw on the field. He's X's and O's wise, great leader, all like that. Air raid quarterback, but I mean, yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what level of mobility if they can see it at all in Mobile due to kind of the drills and all that they do there. Uh, that guy is the opposite of what Mike Tomlin's looking for when it comes to mobility, as far as I can see in the last 2 years of tape. I'll tell you that. I love the kid. Like I said, if I had him, I'd run the air raid offense there. But I just think from a mobility standpoint that's not going to be a kind of guy
Mhm.
and because of the past issues with the knee, it's probably going to scream stay away for the Steelers. To be honest with you.
I'm gonna run this chat a little bit long because we have so many questions and a great commentary here. If I get the chance to ask Carson Strong one question, what should it be, Dave? I'm gonna allow you to choose the question to ask Carson Strong. What should I ask him? Do you have anything in mind?
I would just ask him what throws does he what throws is he least comfortable with making would be one of them. And it would be all about and it would be it's going to be a rehearsed answer that he gives you, but it obviously be related to what does he think the ceiling of his mobility can be.
Okay, so throws and mobility. All right, I'll do it if I get. I mean, they'll probably be sworn, but I'll give it a shot.
Right, and ask him what he likes best. I mean, have him lay out the whole air raid to you. I love when they
I
he
wish
can talk the air raid, and he has
I'm
before
sure.
too. But it's just fascinating to kind of understand the air raid system, and that's one thing I try to spend some time during the season. I learned I became more fluent in the air raid system, being watching that on the weekend.
Hmm.
I absolutely, me, I love that Mountain West. I'm
I
a
know.
Mountain West
You were
football
tweeting
fan
after
now.
midnight at college
Yeah,
football.
Mountain West after midnight. Go ahead.
Well, I only get to ask him probably one question, maybe a quick follow up. So I'll have to figure it out there. But Tiger Beast line, who's the first good Steelers quarterback? I lost the rest of the answer there. Not Terry Bradshaw. Hopefully you're saying Bradshaw was good, but saying the first good one before was Bobby Lane after he got traded over from the Lions and put the curse on Detroit. Bobby Lane, I would say the first good Steelers quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. A super chat actually did come in. Double HH. You did not have to do that, but thank you very much. $20 super chat for extending the chat mates. That is certainly unexpected and very kind of you to do. So let's go ahead and answer a couple more questions if you have the time here, Dave, for a moment. Who would I take at OC, Alex, other than Canada? I haven't thought about other names because I assume Canada is going to be the guy. If he gets fired or relieved of his duties in some capacity, then I would think about it more. Mike Sullivan would be an internal option, which I know people will not like to hear the word internal. In terms of out of house options, I really don't have a good feel for that right now. Maybe Pep Hamilton, but I think he's staying in Houston, it sounds like. Let's see. Any other? When is the next live stream? It'll be 2 weeks from now. Tim. Samantha says, "Hey Alex and Dave, thanks for all the great content here and on the site this year. You guys really have turned it up a notch. Thank you, Samantha. We have a great team. We're very appreciative of their hard work alongside us." And let's see. There's some random stuff in the chat that is not true, and I think that's probably about it, Dave. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up here. Appreciate you guys being here. Thank you to everyone who put in a super chat and hung out with us, asked questions. Really appreciate you guys hanging out with Dave and I. So, like I just said, we'll be back in 2 weeks, back from our post-Mobile trip to talk about the Senior Bowl. And as Dave mentioned, Wednesday on the Turbo Podcast, we'll have a Depot Draft Roundtable, our first of hopefully several draft roundtables this year. So, Dave, as always, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for everybody for showing up. Peace and love to everybody. And Alex, you do a great job with these as usual. And make sure you tune in. Stop by Steelers Depot and say hello. Read these draft profiles. We're going to hope to have, I don't know, over 250, if not more of those this off season. And once again, we have on Wednesday we're going to have a round table that should be pretty good ahead of the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
Peace and love, everybody.
And this person says USFL Depot. I mean, it's back. I don't know what you're meaning by that. The Tomlin coaching tree is expanding, though, with Haley and Wilson coaching those teams. So, yeah. And then there's David O. Glad you're in the chat, David. Hopefully you're feeling better and getting back on your feet here.
Hope you're feeling better, David O. Good to see you.
All right, guys, you can check out a copy of this on Steelers Depot or on my YouTube channel in a little bit. Again, thank you guys for being here, and we'll talk to you soon.